Hello and welcome. My name is Angie Holden and I'm the blogger behind the Country Chic Cottage. Today we're going to talk all about QR code crafts, whether you want to know how to make a QR code or you want to know how to add it to things via Sublimation or your Cricut machine. I'm going to cover both in this video. And this video is a live video premiere, so I'm going to be chatting along with you if you're here during the premiere. I'm going to be chatting along with you in the live comments. And after this video is over, if you're here for the live premiere, this video will automatically redirect to Corey George's video with Hey Let's Make Stuff, and she's going to use a QR code on her laser. So no matter what crafting machine you have, you can make some cute QR code crafts to share any URL you would like. So any website address, from your shop if you have a handmade business and want to start growing that, to like a website that you might want to promote, to even your social media handle to connect with other people easily on the go with a QR code keychain. I have all of those options covered within this video. Now, Corey and I also host a live podcast every other Thursday right here on YouTube, and it's called Crafting for Profit Live. So if you are starting or growing your small or handmade business, we have tips and tricks for you. And one of those is self-promotion. So you want to get your name out there. You want to spread the word about your small handmade business. And what better way to do that than with a QR code craft? So let's jump into the Sublimation and the Cricut version. I'm going to do the Cricut version first, and then we'll jump into the Sublimation version of this QR code keychain. For the Cricut version of this keychain, I am going to use just some acrylic keychains. And these are clear acrylic, but they have a protective film on both sides, and we'll remove that later. It comes with everything you need to assemble the keychains, along with some small, cute little tassels. So I will link to the pack of keychains that I'm using in the description below this video. However, any blank keychain would work with these methods. Then I'm going to use printable vinyl. I found this worked best with the small size of these keychains. However, I will walk through the steps in Cricut Design Space to also cut a QR code from vinyl for larger projects. Weeding hook. And then to seal everything, I do recommend something to seal it. And I'm going to use a UV resin along with a UV light. Now there are various sealer options on the market that you could use to seal your project to make it as permanent as possible on your keychain blank. Now let's head to Cricut Design Space and take a look at how to make QR codes with both vinyl as well as printable vinyl. First of all, if you want to make a QR code that you would cut with your Cricut machine, the easiest way to do that would be to make a SVG file. I find that QRplanet.com has a great resource for that, and I will link to it in the description below this video. It is qrplanet.com/QR-code-generator-SVG. In this box, you would put whatever website you want the QR code to point to. I put my shop URL in here just for illustration purposes. You put a URL that points to a social media, your website, whatever you would like in this box. Make sure you're on the SVG tab and then just click return or enter. That will make the QR code. I have found that level L works best, but if you wanted to experiment with some of these other levels, you can. It is just that more of the QR code may be damaged. Then just click download to download to your computer. It will download as a zip file, and you will need to unzip it before uploading to Cricut Design Space. Within Cricut Design Space, click upload, upload image, browse and find the image on your computer, then click continue and upload. Once you have that image on your canvas, if you click the arrow over here in the layers panel, you can see that there is a cut around the outside edge. I'm actually going to leave that because I want to put white vinyl with black vinyl on top. But if you did not need an outline, for instance, if the blank you were putting this on was white, you can just delete this layer. I am going to ungroup these layers so the black and the white layer are separate. I'm going to click the black layer and do attach. So that attaches that all together, so the QR code itself, you want it to stay together perfectly when you cut it. To lay this out, I'm going to pick a shape, pick a square, and I'm going to make this square 1.875 by 1.875. So that's approximately the size of my keychain. My keychain does have a hole in one corner, but we can deal with that as we get to it. I'm going to go ahead and zoom in, pick both of these, and start resizing them. So we want to resize to fit the square. First of all, we can pick the square, arrange, send to back, then pick the black and the white layer and just start resizing it to fit onto our keychain. Next, because I do have a hole in one corner of this keychain, I just want to pick the black layer and I'm going to move it closer to this side and this side so that I have room for my hole here. Then I do want to add some text, so I'm going to click the text button. I'm going to type "Let's Connect." I'm going to pick a font for that. I'm actually going to weld this together so I can get a better idea of what it's going to look like. And I'm going to cut this out of a hot pink, something kind of in that color family, just to get an idea of how this is going to look once I cut it. Now this can go on any of the sides. I just want it to run down one side. However, we're still gonna have to account for the hole that is going to be in the corner of this keychain. So we may wanna make it a little smaller. And once I have my font size, let's duplicate that. And I'm going to do my name here. You could do the name of your business or something like that, and then rotate this and add it to this other side. So now I have my QR code, I have "Let's Connect" and my name, and I still have the room for the hole that is in my blank. Finally, I'm going to delete off that gray square because that was just sort of a template for me. So I'm going to delete that off. So a cut file like this one would work fine for, say, a larger sign or something like that. When I highlight this entire thing, you will see that it is 1.74 inches by 1.74 inches. These cuts are going to be so intricate and so small that you're probably not going to get this to work with a cut vinyl at this size. What can you do instead? Instead of doing a cut vinyl, what we can do is we can flatten this and do a print. So we're gonna leave the square around the outside edge, and we are going to pick everything and click flatten. This makes the file a print then cut file. That means that this will print, and now because we left the white square, it will cut around that outer white square for us. So now if I click make, you can see that it is going to print that and cut it. And I can actually duplicate that a few times for a couple of different keychains. And now I can print this on a regular inkjet printer and apply to my keychain blanks. That's what I would recommend for a small project like a keychain, but the first way I did it, where I used the SVG to make a cut file, can be used for larger things like signs, as long as these small cuts on the QR code do not get too intricate. For this one, I'm going to click continue. Then I'm going to send it to my regular printer, and I'm going to print it on printable vinyl. So I'm just going to print it with my Canon onto regular vinyl. And we don't need to add bleed because the square around there was white. There's no need to do that. And I always click use system dialog box. Then I'll click print. Then you'll just set your print settings and print onto printable vinyl. After you print on the vinyl, apply it to your Cricut mat and stick it down well. Then cut on your Cricut machine. I'm using the printable vinyl setting for this one. Your Cricut machine will first read the registration marks, then it will cut around the QR codes around that area that was the white square within Cricut Design Space. Once it's done cutting, for the Cricut Joy Extra, just press unload on your computer screen in order to unload it. Then you want to weed your printable vinyl. So we just want to pick it up in the corner and peel that back, and you should be left with just squares that have your QR code as well as the text that you added. So now I have my printable vinyl all weeded and ready to apply. And for this keychain, it does have a protective film on both sides. So it's a clear acrylic, and we're gonna peel the white film back from both sides. Once I have that peeled back, you can see it's a clear acrylic keychain. So now we want to apply this vinyl just like a sticker. So I'm going to peel it off from the backing, and I'm going to leave that area that I left for the hole towards the hole in the keychain, and then just line it up and stick it down into place. I do want to just rub this down, and then we can use something like a weeding hook to poke through that hole because it did cover it up just a little bit. So I'm going to go ahead and poke through the hole, and I even have just a small pair of tweezers here, and I'm going to grab any excess vinyl that's in that hole. So now the keychain is complete, but I do recommend some type of sealer over the top, just because this will be very abused as a keychain. So I'm gonna apply a UV resin over the top, but you could apply the sealer of your choice. I have my keychain on just a scrap piece of paper, and then I'm using a UV resin product, and I'm just going to apply that all over the top. Now in my test with my printer, I did not have any issues with the ink bleeding. So you might want to test this before you fully assemble your keychain, and we're just going to add the resin all the way around. It's a self-leveling doming resin, and I do want to make sure that hole is clear from the resin. So I'm just going to apply the resin. Then I like to use something like a popsicle stick to smooth it out, get a nice even coat that is fairly thin. I did go ahead and raise this up with a cup so that it wouldn't be against my scrap piece of paper, and I could push through here on this hole. You could use a toothpick, just anything to get that hole clear of any resin. And then I made sure it was all the way to the edge and covering up my entire design. And all the way to the edge, even in the corners. So just you take your time, make sure everything is completely covered. And the next thing we're going to do is remove any bubbles. Now I'm going to use a small, just like low temp heat gun for this. However, you could just blow on it, and if you're patient enough, the bubbles will pop. The heat gun is a little bit faster. I'm just going to hold it on the sides. And then just run that heat gun over it. A hairdryer would probably work as well. And something I like to do is this popsicle stick with that little bit of resin where I was pushing it around. I like to have it under the UV light as well. And that helps me test to make sure everything is cured. Then I'm going to put it under the UV light per the instructions, and I'm going to cure it for as long as it needs to cure completely. It only takes a few minutes to cure these, and then you can assemble them. So I'm just assembling with a jump ring. I'm adding a tassel, which is optional. Then you would add the key ring itself. Then just close it with a couple of pairs of jewelry pliers. And then you have a keychain that you can share whatever URL you would like. So now let's make the sublimation version of this. For the sublimation version, you'll need your sublimation keychains. Now I had these faux leather ones. The place that carried these did go out of business, so I will link to some similar ones below. However, any sublimation blank will work for this. Then you'll need a lint roller, heat resistant tape, protected paper, as well as a heat source big enough to cover your sublimation blank. And then you'll need a sublimation print. This is sublimation ink printed on sublimation paper with a sublimation printer. And right now we're going to dive into Canva and see how to make these QR codes and print them for your sublimation project. So I'm going to use Canva to make a QR code for a sublimation keychain. So I'm going to click Create Design, Custom Size, and pick 8.5 by 11 because that's the size of my sublimation paper. Then click App and search QR code. Pick this app here, it's just called QR code. You're going to paste the URL that you want the QR code to point to. I'm going to use my shop URL as an example. However, you can put any social media or website URL here and click Generate Code. Now I have a QR code for the website I want people to visit. Next, I'm going to click Elements, pick a square, click Position, and make this 1.75 by 1.75 because that's the sublimatable area of my keychain. Now I'm going to use this as a template, so I am going to move it to the back. And we can resize this QR code to fit that template. Next I'm going to add some text. You can pick a font, and I'm going to make it say Let's Connect. And then you can pick a font color, and I'm going to use this green here. So now I have the text, and I can resize it a little bit, and then we'll pick that outside square that I was using as a template and click Delete. So now that is what I want to print to sublimate on my keychain, and I can duplicate that a few times to make a few different keychains if I would like. And then I'll go ahead and download it and print it on my sublimation printer using sublimation ink on sublimation paper. Then you want to clean your sublimation blank well. Now I often find that it's easier to locate these prints if you trim them a little bit close. That way you can see where to locate them. Once it's located on the blank, then we need to secure it into place. And I'm going to try to secure this at the top. Then I'm going to secure down the sides. I am not wrapping my tape around to the back. Sometimes the backing on these types of blanks has a tendency to peel off when it's hot, and I don't want that to happen. So I'm just going to try to secure like this. And then we'll add protected paper to the top and the bottom. And I'm going to use a heat resistant mat, add add my blank to the heat resistant mat, and I'm going to press. This metal should be fine under the heat press, so I just need to center the heat press over this. And I'm gonna press at 355 degrees for 50 seconds. I am using my Easy Press, however you can use any heat press for this project. I did find that a medium pressure worked best with these, so be sure to press down really well if you're using the Easy Press for these. Then once your pressing is complete, remove the protective paper as well as the sublimation print, and you might need to use heat resistant gloves for this because it will be hot, especially that metal keychain ring. Then your Sublimation QR code keychain is complete. So these turned out so great. I love these blanks because they have like a color on the back, and you can even see this one looks sort of glittery, which is why I don't put the tape on the back. So I will link to some similar blanks in the description below this video if you want to make these Sublimation QR code keychains. And then here's a look at how all of the keychains turned out. No matter if you have a Cricut machine, a sublimation printer, whatever you have, you can make QR code crafts to share your business even when you're out and about with a keychain. So now whether you have a sublimation printer or a Cricut machine, you can make some QR code crafts to promote your small business, your handmade business. If you're just starting to sell your crafts or want to grow your business, this is a great way to do that. So carry the QR code right on your keychain, and when you mention your small business in conversation, they can just scan that QR code and head directly to your shop, your Instagram page, your website, wherever you would like them to go. You could even use this for an email sign up. So this is a fun way to promote yourself easily on the go. Now, you want more QR code goodness? You might have a laser machine, or you just want more ideas for things to do with QR codes. Be sure to stay tuned at the end of this video to Corey George's video if you're joining us for the live premiere. If you're watching us on the replay, I will link to her video in the description below this one, along with all the supplies I used to make both of these keychains, so you can head there and grab the supplies and then click her video and watch it. And then while you're at it, head to craftingforprofitlive.com. I'll put that URL right here. And you can sign up for our newsletter, and that way you'll never miss an episode of Crafting for Profit Live. Whether you're looking to grow or start a handmade business, selling your crafts, we have you covered with tips and tricks every other week, from marketing tips to pricing your products to more personal stories about our chronic illness, and we even have an episode on starting a handmade business. There are tons of episodes already up, so you can sort of binge watch or binge listen on your favorite podcasting platform to the episodes we have up already, and then join us every other week for the live, or listen on your favorite podcasting platform. If you sign up for that newsletter, you'll get reminders right in your email inbox. So now, if you are joining for the live premiere and we're chatting along in the comments, as soon as I'm done talking, this video will redirect right to Corey's video. If you missed the live premiere and are watching the replay, head below and click the link so you don't miss the craft that she's making. Now, if you have any questions about QR code crafts, drop it down in the comment section, ask away. If you like this video and it helped you, give us a thumbs up. If you haven't already, head on over to our YouTube channel, hit that subscribe button. We have videos just like this one every single week, and trust me, you don't want to miss any of those. Now, watch Corey's video and be sure to join us for Crafting for Profit Live. Thank y'all so much, and I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.